The sharp crack of a slap echoed through the first-class cabin of Horizon Airlines flight HAR 392 from Chicago to Los Angeles, slicing through the hum of the engines and the low murmur of passengers. Maya Carter, a 45-year-old tech mogul whose net worth had long surpassed the billion-dollar mark, froze in her seat, her hand instinctively rising to her cheek where the sting of the blow still burned. A single drop of blood trickled from her lip, catching the light against her deep brown skin. The cabin fell silent, every eye locked on the scene unfolding in seat 3A. The flight attendant, Jessica Hayes, stood over her, hands still raised, her face a mix of defiance and shock, as if she couldn't quite believe what she'd done. Maya, dressed in a tailored Chanel dress that cost more than most people's monthly rent, dabbed at the blood with a linen napkin. Her movements deliberate, her expression unreadable. 25 years of building Lucor, a revolutionary AI-driven medical technology company, had made her one of the most powerful women in America. Yet here she was, reduced to a stereotype in the eyes of a woman who didn't even know her name. The irony was bitter, but not unfamiliar. Maya straightened her posture, her dark eyes locking onto Jessica's. "You've just made a mistake," she said, her voice low but carrying the weight of a promise. "And I don't mean the slap." She adjusted her dress, smoothed a non-existent wrinkle, and turned her attention to her phone, already calculating her next move. This wasn't just about one flight attendant's prejudice. This was about an entire system that allowed such an act to happen at 30,000 feet. By the time this flight landed, Horizon Airlines wouldn't just be another acquisition for Interlochor. It would be the battleground for a reckoning that would shake corporate America to its core. Maya Carter hadn't always been a name that commanded boardrooms. Born in a crumbling tenement in Detroit's East Side, she grew up in a world where survival demanded resilience and ingenuity. Her mother, Angela Carter, was a seamstress who worked late into the night, her fingers calloused from endless hours at the sewing machine, stitching together dreams of a better life for her daughter. Her father had left when Maya was 3, leaving behind nothing but a faded photograph and a void that Angela filled with fierce love and unrelenting determination. "You're smarter than this place," Angela would say, her voice weary but firm, as she handed Maya a stack of library books she'd checked out after her shift. By the time Maya was 8, she was fixing neighbors' broken radios and VCRs, earning a few dollars here and there, her small hands deft with a screwdriver. "Miss Carter, you're a genius," old Mr. Thompson would exclaim, handing her a crumpled $5 bill after she revived his ancient television. Maya would beam, clutching the money, not because of its value, but because it was proof she could create something out of nothing at 10. Maya stumbled into the world of computers when a local community center received a donation of outdated PCs. The center's director, a kind but overworked woman named Mrs. Jenkins, noticed Maya's curiosity and let her tinker after hours. "Don't break anything," Mrs. Jenkins warned. But Maya was already lost in the glow of the screen, teaching herself BASIC from a dog-eared manual. By 12, she had written her first programmer, rudimentary inventory tracker for her mother's sewing supplies, which cut Angela's bookkeeping time in half. "You're going to change the world, baby," Angela said, tears in her eyes as she watched the program run flawlessly on their second-hand computer. The local library became Maya's sanctuary, a place where she could escape the chaos of her neighborhood and dive into books on coding, mathematics, and physics. The head librarian, Mr. Harold Grayson, a gruff but perceptive man, initially eyed her with suspicion assuming a black girl from the east side was there to loiter. But when he caught her debugging a library computer that had stumped the IT guy, his skepticism turned to respect. "You've got something special, kid," he said one day, sliding a flyer across the counter for a summer coding camp in Ann Arbor. "It's free for kids like you. Apply." Maya hesitated, knowing the bus fare alone would strain their budget. But Angela insisted. "We'll make it work," she said, and they did, with Angela taking on extra shifts to cover the cost. That camp was a revelation. Surrounded by mostly white, affluent kids, Maya stood out, not just for her skin color, but for her raw talent. She outshone her peers, building a program that optimized the camp's scheduling system in a way that left the instructors speechless. "This girl's going places," one of them whispered to another, unaware that Maya overheard. The camp director, impressed, recommended her for a scholarship to a prestigious magnet high school in downtown Detroit. High school brought new challenges. Her classmates, many from wealthier suburbs, whispered about affirmative action when she walked into advanced placement classes. "She's only here because of quotas," one boy sneered during a group project. Maya responded by acing every exam, leading every project, and graduating as valedictorian. Her speech a quiet but powerful declaration of her worth. "I'm not here because of anyone's charity," she told the auditorium, her mother in the front row wiping tears from her eyes. "I'm here because I earned it." Stanford University was next, a world so different from Detroit it might as well have been another planet. The campus was a sea of privilege, where professors often overlooked her raised hand in favor of her white male classmates, and group projects saw her doing the heavy lifting while others took credit. During her sophomore year, a professor questioned the originality of her AI algorithm for predicting patient outcomes in emergency rooms. "This is impressive," he said, his tone skeptical, "but did you have help with the coding?" Maya's jaw tightened, but she smiled politely. "No, sir, it's all mine. I can walk you through every line if you'd like." She did, and the professor's skepticism faded, though his apology was half-hearted. That moment, one of many, fueled her determination. By her senior year, Maya had laid the groundwork for IntelliCore, an AI system that could analyze medical data in predicting complications before they became critical. While other tech startups focused on consumer apps, Maya saw a future where AI could save lives by making healthcare smarter and more equitable. After graduation, the rejections came fast and hard. Venture capitalists listened to her pitch with polite interest until she entered the room. Then their smiles tightened, and their questions grew patronizing. "It's a bold idea, but is the market ready for this?" One VC asked, his eyes flickering to her braided hair. Another was more blunt. "Our investors prefer founders with a certain track record." Translation: they weren't ready to bet on a black woman. Undeterred, Maya bootstrapped IntelliCore from her tiny apartment, working as a freelance coder by day and building her dream by night. Her first office was her mother's kitchen table, where Angela would make coffee at 2 a.m. to keep her going. Her first employee was her college roommate, Lauren Kim, a Korean-American data scientist who believed in Maya's vision when no one else did. "You're going to make them eat their words," Lauren said, signing on without hesitation. The breakthrough came when IntelliCore's AI saved a patient's life during a hospital trial in Chicago. A major medical device company took notice, and suddenly, the VCS who had dismissed her were calling. Maya turned them down. "I'm open." 2 partnerships, she told them coolly, but on my terms. By 35, Intellicorp had transformed healthcare, integrating with hospitals, clinics, and research institutions worldwide. Maya's net worth crossed the billion-dollar mark, making her one of the few black women in that rarefied club. By 40, it had multiplied fivefold. Despite her wealth, Maya stayed out of the spotlight, focusing on her work and quietly funding STEM programs for underserved communities. Her mother, now living in a comfortable house Maya had bought her, remained her rock until Angela's passing from cancer 2 years ago. Loss that left a void no amount of success could fill. Maya had a peculiar habit that puzzled her executive team. She occasionally flew commercial instead of using her private jet. "It keeps me grounded," she explained to David Brooks, her chief of staff and a former Marine who had been with her for a decade. "If I forget how the world treats regular people, I lose my edge." David, a towering man with a shaved head and a nonsense demeanor, never argued. He simply ensured her security protocols were in place, booking himself a seat a few rows behind her. On this particular Tuesday, Maya packed a modest overnight bag for her flight to Los Angeles, where she was finalizing Intellicorp's acquisition of SkyVista Corp, Horizon Airline's parent company. The deal was a strategic leap, integrating AI into air travel to enhance safety, efficiency, and customer experience. Few at SkyVista knew that the woman in designer jeans and a simple silk blouse boarding flight HA392 was about to become their boss. Jessica Hayes' day had started in chaos. Her alarm didn't go off, her car wouldn't start, and her boyfriend of 3 years had broken up with her via text at 6 a.m. by the time she reached O'Hare International Airport for her shift as lead flight attendant on HA392. Her mood was a storm cloud. "You're late," her supervisor snapped as she rushed into the pre-flight briefing. "Traffic," Jessica lied, avoiding mention of the 15 minutes she'd spent crying in her car. At 32, she had envisioned a different life perhaps, as a pilot, a dream derailed by the cost of flight school. The Horizon uniform, once a symbol of ambition, now felt like a reminder of her stalled aspirations. The first-class cabin was full, mostly with the usual crowd, white businessmen in tailored suits, engrossed in their laptops. Jessica could handle them blindfolded, minimal interaction, quick drink service, and leave them be. But as boarding continued, she noticed a black woman in her mid-40s approaching the first-class cabin. Maya wore understated elegance, designer, jeans, a silk blouse, and minimal jewelry, her natural hair in a sleek bun. Jessica's first thought wasn't about service, but suspicion. "Excuse me," she said, stepping in front of Maya. "This is first class. The economy is at the rear." Maya looked up from her phone, her expression calm, but with a flicker of something amusement, perhaps, or resignation. "I'm aware," she said, handing over her boarding pass. "Seat 3A. Jessica scrutinized the ticket longer than necessary. Reading the name aloud, Maya Carter, she paused, as if expecting the name to mean something. Maya's voice remained neutral. "That's me." Jessica's instincts screamed that something was off. This woman didn't fit her mental image of a first-class passenger. "I'll need ID," Jessica said, a demand she hadn't made of any other passenger. Maya produced her driver's license without protest, her gaze steady. Jessica studied it with exaggerated care before stepping aside. "Fine, 3A's on your right." As Maya settled into her seat, stowing her single carry-on, Jessica resumed her duties, casting occasional glances at the woman who seemed so out of place. The pre-flight beverage service set the tone. Jessica's interactions with Maya were curt, lacking the warmth she offered others. "Drink?" she asked, skipping the pleasantries she used with the white businessman into B. "Sparkling water with lemon." Maya requested. Jessica served. The other passengers first, and when she finally placed Maya's drink on the tray table, she did so with a carelessness that sent water sloshing over the edge. "Oops," she said, tossing a napkin in Maya's direction without offering to clean it up. Maya dabbed at the spill herself, her face betraying nothing. The businessman across the aisle received a solicitous, "Is your whiskey to your liking, sir?" The pattern continued through the meal. Service Maya's food arrived last. Her coffee refill forgotten, her call button ignored for nearly 15 minutes. To most passengers, the disparities were subtle, but to Maya, they were as familiar as her. Heartbeat, she had navigated this kind of treatment her entire life. From the Detroit streets, to Stanford lecture halls, to Silicon Valley boardrooms. 2 hours into the flight, the situation escalated. Jessica was hurrying down the aisle with a water pitcher when the plane hit turbulence. She stumbled, and a cascade of ice-cold water splashed onto Maya's lap. Maya gasped, startled by the sudden chill. Jessica's response was immediate and accusatory. "You should have had your tray table up during turbulence." Maya glanced at her tray table, securely locked in its upright position. "My tray is up," she said evenly, and there was no turbulence warning. Jessica's face reddened, her frustration boiling over. "Well, you must have moved and bumped my arm." The passenger into B, a middle-aged white man who had witnessed the incident, spoke up. "She didn't move. I saw it." Jessica shot him a glare before muttering, "I'll get napkins." She returned with a handful of flimsy cocktail napkins, inadequate for the soaking mess. Maya, still composed, decided to address the pattern directly. "I've noticed you're treating me differently from other passengers," she said quietly, ensuring only Jessica could hear. "It's inappropriate and discriminatory." Jessica's eyes widened, her voice rising defensively. "Are you calling me racist?" "I didn't use that word," Maya replied. "I'm pointing out a pattern of behavior. I've been—" "Nothing but professional," Jessica hissed, her tone betraying her agitation. "Maybe you're just oversensitive." Maya's jaw tightened, but her voice remained steady. "Gaslighting doesn't change what's happening. I'd like to speak to the purser." That was the moment Jessica snapped. The stress of her day, the challenge to her authority, and her unexamined biases collided in a catastrophic lapse of judgment. "Listen," she said, leaning in close. "I don't know who you think you are, but you can't throw accusations around because you're having a bad day. People like you always make it about race." Maya raised an eyebrow. "People like me, you know what I mean," Jessica retorted, always playing the victim. Maya reached for her phone. "I'm recording this, and I'll be reporting it to your management." That was when Jessica's control shattered. Without thinking, she swung her hand, striking Maya across the face with enough force to snap her head to the side. The sound was a gunshot in the quiet cabin. Blood trickled from Maya's lip where it had caught against her teeth, a stark crimson against her skin. The cabin froze, passengers stunned into silence, phones already out to capture the moment. Jessica's hand hovered in the air, her eyes wide with the realization of her actions. Maya touched her cheek, then her lip, dabbing the blood with her napkin. Her gaze locked onto Jessica's calm but unyielding. "You've made a very serious mistake," she said, her voice so soft Jessica had to strain to hear it. "And Promise you, the consequences will be proportional. In seat 6C, David Brooks was already on his phone, his fingers moving with military precision as he alerted Maya's legal team. The video of the slap, captured by multiple passengers, was already spreading online, the hashtag Horizon Assault trending within minutes. What no one on the flight knew was that the woman in 3A wasn't just a passenger. She was the CEO about to take control of their airline. As the plane continued its journey to Los Angeles, the atmosphere in the cabin was electric with tension. Passengers whispered, some outraged, others unsure how to react. The purser, a seasoned flight attendant named Michael Torres, was summoned and approached Maya with an ashen face. "Ma'am, I am deeply sorry for what happened," he said, his voice shaking. "This is unacceptable and will involve law enforcement upon landing." Maya nodded, her expression neutral. "I'll cooperate fully," she said. "Please, ensure the incident is documented." Michael nodded, casting a glance at Jessica, who had been pulled to the galley, her hands trembling as she realized the gravity of her actions. Meanwhile, David was in crisis mode, his phone a flurry of encrypted messages. "Simon, it's bad," he said to Maya's head of legal affairs. "Physical assault this time. I need a team at LAX when we land, and alert PR to prepare for a storm." David had seen Maya face discrimination before a hotel in New York that lost her reservation, a car dealership that assumed she couldn't afford their luxury models, but this was a new low. Physical violence at 30,000 feet was a line crossed, back in Chicago. At Sky Vista Corp's headquarters, CEO William "Bill" Harper was in a budget meeting when his assistant burst in, her face pale. "Sir, there's an emergency on HA 392. She said, "A flight attendant assaulted a passenger." "It's viral." Bill's stomach dropped. "Who's the passenger?" he asked, dreading the answer. "Maya Carter," his assistant replied. Bill's blood ran cold. "The Maya Carter. Intellicorp's CEO," she nodded. "The one buying us tomorrow." Bill ended the meeting with a curt wave, his mind racing. The acquisition was his lifeline, a way to stabilize Horizon's shaky finances while securing his exit package. Now, it was all at risk because of one employee's catastrophic error. "Get me everything on this," he barked, "and find out who that flight attendant is." They're done. As the plane descended into Los Angeles, the viral video was dominating social media. Hashtag Horizon Assault had millions of views, with news outlets picking up the story. Black female passenger slapped by flight attendant on Horizon Airlines. No, none mentioned yet that Maya was the incoming owner of the airline, a revelation that would soon explode the narrative. At LAX, the plane was met by airport police, Horizon executives, and a team of sharply dressed individuals moving with the precision of a SWAT team. Maya's people. As passengers disembarked, many still filming, Jessica was escorted off by police, her face streaked with tears. Bill Harper himself was waiting in the jet bridge, his expression a mix of fury and fear. "Ms. Hayes, do you have any idea what you've done?" he hissed. Jessica, bewildered, shook her head. "That's Maya Carter," Bill said, "founder of Intellicorp, worth billions. And as of tomorrow, your boss." Jessica's knees buckled as the reality hit her. Maya emerged from the plane, flanked by David, and was immediately met by her legal counsel, Rachel Nguyen. She walked past Bill and Jessica without a glance, her focus on the next steps. "Rachel, I want options," she said as they strode through the terminal. "Not just for the flight attendant, for the entire company culture that let this happen." Rachel nodded. We've got leverage with the acquisition, civil and criminal angles, and a PR strategy ready. By tomorrow's board meeting, we'll have a plan to reshape Horizon from the ground up. Maya's phone buzzed with a text from her younger sister Tessa, a schoolteacher in Detroit, saw the video. "You okay?" Maya typed back. "Not yet, but I will be. And so will this airline." As her team escorted her to a waiting car, Maya felt the weight of the moment. This wasn't just about hurt, it was about every person who had ever been made to feel less than human in a space they had every right to occupy. The scar on her cheek would fade, but the scar on Horizon Airlines would be permanent unless she acted, and act she would. The next morning, Los Angeles buzzed with the fallout. Maya's hotel suite at the Four Seasons was a hive of activity as her team prepared for the Sky Vista board meeting. Rachel, a Harvard-educated lawyer who had turned down Wall Street to work with Maya, was outlining legal strategies. "We've got the assault itself, clear-cut criminal charges if you choose to pursue them," she said. "But the acquisition gives us unique leverage. We can dictate terms." David, standing by the window with his usual vigilance, added, "Bill Harper's desperate. His position's shaky, and he knows it." Diana Lopez, Maya's chief investment officer, chimed in, "We control 20% of Sky Vista's stock already. Even without the acquisition, we're the largest shareholder. They can't ignore us." Amara Jackson, head of communications, monitored the social media storm. "The video's at 10 million views," she reported. "We haven't made a statement yet, but I've tipped off key journalists about your role in the acquisition. That'll hit the news cycle soon." Maya sipped her coffee, her mind racing. She had faced discrimination her entire life, Fat Stanford, in boardrooms, even in luxury stores where staff followed her as if she might steal something. But this was different. Being struck on a plane, in front of witnesses, by someone with authority over the cabinet was a violation that cut deeper than words. "This isn't just about me," she said, her voice steady. "It's about every black person who's been dismissed, ignored, or worse, because of how they look. I could ruin Jessica Hayes' life with a single call, but that doesn't fix the system that made her think she could act that way." Rachel leaned forward. "What's the play?" Maya's eyes gleamed with the strategic brilliance that had built in. "We don't just take over Horizon. We transform it into a model for what corporate America should be, and we start by exposing the rot that's been hidden for years." As the team finalized their strategy, an unexpected email arrived from a Horizon employee named Lena Washington, a black flight attendant who had worked for the airline for 15 years. The message was cryptic but urgent. "Ms. Carter, I've seen what they've done to people like us for years. I have files, complaints, emails, reports that they buried. Meet me, and I'll give you everything." Maya's pulse quickened. This was the break she needed, proof that Jessica's actions weren't an isolated incident but part of a larger pattern. She forwarded the email to David. "Find her, discreetly." David nodded, already on his phone. "I'll have her at a safe location by noon." The meeting with Lena took place in a quiet cafe near Lax, away from prying eyes. Lena, a woman in her late 30s with a weary but determined expression, handed Maya a USB drive. "I've been keeping copies for years," she said. "Every time someone reported discrimination, racial slurs from passengers, unequal treatment by crew, complaints about service, they'd route it to a special HR unit. Most were dismissed or settled with NDAs. I was told to keep quiet or lose my job." Maya scanned the files on her tablet, hundreds of complaints, some dating back a decade, detailing everything from microaggressions to outright harassment. "Why now?" Maya asked. Lena's eyes met hers. "Because you're the first person with the power to do something about it. And because I saw that video, I've been where you were, Miss Carter, just without the cameras." By the time Maya returned to her suite, her resolve had hardened. The board meeting loomed, and she knew it would be a battle. Sky Vista's leadership, led by Bill Harper and bolstered by old guard board members like Charles Donovan, would fight to protect their status quo. But Maya had something they didn't: evidence, leverage, and a vision that went beyond profit. She spent the night refining her strategy, her team working in shifts to prepare legal documents, financial projections, and a media plan. The bruise on her cheek was a constant reminder of why she was doing this, not for revenge, but for transformation. At 8:55 a.m., Maya and her team walked into Sky Vista's Los Angeles headquarters, a sleek glass building that screamed corporate success. The receptionist faltered when she saw Maya, her eyes darting to the faint bruise. "Ms. Carter, they're waiting for you in the boardroom," she said, her voice nervous. Maya smiled politely. "Thank you." As they approached the boardroom, David leaned in. "They're rattled. Harper's been making calls all morning, trying to rally support." Maya nodded. "Good. Let them underestimate me. It'll make this easier." The boardroom was a study in tension. Bill Harper stood at the head of the table, his salt and pepper hair perfectly styled, but his eyes betrayed his anxiety. The board members, a mix of aging white men and a token woman, Margaret Lee, shifted uncomfortably as Maya took a seat opposite Bill. Her team Rachel, Diana, David, and Amara flanked her, their presence a silent assertion of power. "Ms. Carter," Bill began, his voice practiced, "I cannot express how deeply sorry we are for what happened on flight HA392. Jessica Hayes has been terminated, and we're prepared to offer substantial compensation." Maya raised a hand, silencing him. "Mr. Harper, apologies and payouts don't address the root of the problem. Jessica Hayes didn't act in a vacuum. She was enabled by a culture that tolerates bias. I'm here to change that culture, starting today." Charles Donovan, a silver-haired financier with a reputation for resisting change, scoffed audibly. "With all due respect, Miss Carter, one employee's actions don't indict an entire company. Let's not overreact." Maya's eyes locked onto his, unflinching. "Mr. Donovan, I have evidence of over 400 discrimination complaints buried by this company over the past decade. Would you like me to share them with the board, or perhaps the Department of Transportation?" The room went still. Bill's face paled. We weren't aware of any systemic issues," he stammered. Rachel slid a folder across the table. "These are summaries of the complaints obtained from a whistleblower. They detail a pattern of racial bias in customer service, employee treatment, and complaint handling. Your special HR unit ensured most never saw the light of day." Margaret Lee, the board's lone woman, spoke up. "If this is true, it's a serious breach of governance. Who oversaw this unit?" All eyes turned to Charles, whose composure faltered. I delegated HR matters to a trusted team," he said. "I wasn't personally involved." Maya smiled faintly. "We'll get to accountability later. For now, let's discuss my terms for the acquisition." She outlined her plan: mandatory bias training for all employees, a diverse leadership pipeline, independent oversight of complaints, and a board restructuring to reflect the airline's customer base. Charles interrupted. "This is absurd. These changes will cost millions and disrupt operations. Maya leaned forward. And doing nothing will cost you more. If I walk away, your stock will tank when these files go public. Your choice. The board meeting stretched into hours, with Charles and his allies pushing back, arguing for a slower approach. But Maya held firm, her evidence and leverage unassailable. By the end, the board voted 8-3 to accept her terms, with Charles and to others dissenting. As the meeting adjourned, Maya caught Lena Washington's eye in the hallway, giving her a subtle nod of gratitude. Lena had risked everything to provide the files, and Maya wouldn't forget it. That evening, in her suite, Maya stood on the balcony, the Los Angeles skyline glittering below. The victory felt hollow. The bruise on her cheek was fading, but the weight of the fight lingered. Her phone buzzed with a text from Tessa. "You did it. Mum would be so proud." Maya's eyes stung. Angela had faced countless indignities without the power Maya now wielded, yet she'd never lost her humanity. Maya typed back, "This is just the start." She knew the real battle was ahead. Transforming Horizon wasn't just about one company. It was about setting a precedent, creating a blueprint for change that others would follow. As she prepared for the next phase, a call came from Dr. Ruth Washington, her mentor from Stanford. "You okay, Maya?" Ruth asked, her voice warm with concern. "Not yet," Maya admitted, "but I'm getting there. And I'm not doing this alone." The stage was set for a confrontation that would redefine not just Horizon Airlines, but the very nature of corporate accountability. What had begun as a routine flight had become a catalyst for a movement, one that would challenge systems of power and open doors for those who came after. Maya Carter wasn't just fighting for herself, she was fighting for a future where no one would have to endure what she had, and she was only getting started. Charles's face reddened, but he held his ground. Those were sensitive matters handled discreetly to protect the company's reputation. "You're twisting this into something it's not," Rachel interjected, her voice sharp, discreetly. "You silenced employees like Lena Washington, who reported racial slurs from passengers, only to be demoted. You paid off complainants with NDAs to avoid liability. That's not discretion, it's suppression." The boardroom fell silent, the weight of the accusation settling over the room. Margaret Lee flipped through the documents, her expression hardening. "This is a serious breach of governance." "Charles, did you inform the board of this protocol?" Charles stammered. "It was standard procedure for high-profile cases." "I delegated Maya," cut him off. "You delegated the erasure of 400 voices. And now you're trying to paint me as the villain for exposing it. Let's be clear, I'm not here to negotiate the truth." As the meeting stretched into its third hour, Maya unveiled her boldest proposal, the Accountability and Restoration Program. "Firing employees like Jessica Hayes doesn't solve the problem," she said. "It buries it. Instead, we'll offer a path for those willing to confront their biases. 6 months of intensive education on systemic racism, coupled with community service in marginalized communities. Those who complete it can be considered for reinstatement." The board was stunned. Bill Harper blinked. "You're suggesting we rehire the flight attendant who assaulted you?" Maya nodded. "Punishment doesn't change culture. Education and accountability do." Charles Donovan laughed bitterly. "This is absurd. You're rewarding bad behavior." Maya's eyes locked onto his. "No, Mr. Donovan. I'm offering a chance for transformation. Something this company desperately needs." The room was divided. Margaret Lee and a few others nodded thoughtfully, while Charles and his allies bristled. "This is a liability nightmare," Charles said. You can't force employees into re-education camps. Rachel countered, it's voluntary. And it's backed by legal protections for whistleblowers like our source, who provided these files. The mention of the whistleblower sent a ripple of unease through the room. Bill Harper, desperate to regain control, called for a vote. Let's settle this, he said. The board voted 8-3 to accept Maya's terms, with Charles and 2 allies dissenting. As the meeting adjourned, Charles stormed out, his face a mask of fury. Maya caught Margaret Lee's eye, noting her subtle nod of approval. An ally, perhaps? Outside the boardroom, Maya met Lena Washington in a quiet corridor. You took a big risk, Maya said, handing her a business card. Contact me when this settles. I want you on our team. Lena's eyes shone with gratitude. Thank you, Miss Carter. I just want things to change. Maya nodded. They will. That evening, in her suite, Maya received a call from her sister, Tessa. You're all over the news, Tessa said. They're calling you a corporate crusader. You okay? Maya touched her bruise, her voice soft. I'm not sure yet. But this isn't just about me. Tessa's voice cracked. Mum would have fought with you. You know that. Maya's throat tightened. I know. The next morning, Amara reported a new development. Charles Donovan had leaked an internal memo to the press, exaggerating the costs of Maya's plan to scare shareholders. The stock dipped 4%, and Charles was rallying investors against the acquisition. Maya wasn't surprised. He's desperate, she said. Let him make his move. David Brooks entered with a flash drive. Lena sent more files. Donovan's been funneling complaints to a private legal firm for years, bypassing corporate oversight. Rachel's eyes lit up. That's a federal violation. We can bury him. Maya shook her head. Not yet. Let him think he's winning. We'll use this at the right moment. As the day progressed, Maya prepared for the Urban League dinner, where she would deliver a keynote address. The event was a chance to control the narrative, to frame the acquisition as a step toward justice, rather than a power grab. Amara had ensured the media knew Maya's role in the deal, and the headlines were shifting in her favor. Billionaire takes on airline racism, but Charles Donovan wasn't done. A second opinion piece appeared, accusing Maya of orchestrating the incident for leverage. He's going nuclear, David said. Maya nodded, and he's overplayed his hand. At the dinner, Maya took the stage, her bruise barely visible under makeup, but her presence commanding. This isn't about one slap, she told the crowd. It's about a system that allows prejudice to thrive unchecked. Horizon Airlines will be the first to change, but it won't be the last. The audience erupted in applause, but Maya's mind was already on the next battle. Charles Donovan's resistance was growing, and she knew he was planning a shareholder revolt. As she left the stage, a young girl approached, her eyes wide with admiration. Ms. Carter, I'm learning to code because of you, she said. Maya knelt, handing her a card. Keep going. The world needs you. The girl's smile was a reminder of why this fight mattered. Back at her suite, Maya's team gathered to strategize. Rachel outlined their counterattack, a public campaign highlighting the buried complaints, paired with shareholder meetings to secure support. Diana reported that key investors were already on board, drawn by Intellicorp's ESG credentials. David added, We've got a mole in Donovan's camp. He's planning an emergency board meeting to delay your plan. Maya's eyes gleamed. Let him. We'll be ready. As the night wore on, Maya opened her journal, writing about the slap, not as a CEO, but as a woman. The words poured out, the humiliation, the anger, the exhaustion of being twice as good to be seen as equal. Tears fell as she wrote, but with them came clarity. This wasn't just about Horizon, it was about building a legacy of change. She closed the journal, her resolve steeled for the fight ahead. 1 year after the slap that reverberated through corporate America, Maya Carter stood on the tarmac at Los Angeles International Airport, watching a Horizon Airlines plane now rebranded as Unity Air Taxi toward the gate. The aircraft's sleek new livery, a vibrant blend of blues and golds, gleamed under the California sun, a visual testament to the transformation that had reshaped the airline. At 46, Maya was no longer just the CEO of IntelliCore, the AI medical technology giant she had built from nothing. She was now the architect of a corporate revolution, having turned Unity Air into a model of inclusion and accountability that had the industry buzzing. The bruise on her cheek from that fateful flight, HA392, had long faded, but its impact lingered not as a scar of defeat, but as a catalyst for a movement that was only beginning. As she boarded the flight to San Francisco, the same route where it all began, Maya wasn't traveling incognito this time. The crew recognized her instantly, but their smiles were genuine, their service consistent with every passenger, regardless of status or appearance. This was the change she had fought. For not special treatment, but equal treatment. As the plane climbed into the sky, a young black flight attendant named Jasmine Roberts approached her seat, accompanied by a girl no older than 12, her eyes wide with awe. "Ms. Carter," Jasmine said, "this is Amara. She's a passenger, traveling alone and asked to meet you." Amara, clutching a phone with a cracked screen, blurted out, "I want to be like you when I grow up. I'm learning to code." Maya's heart caught, a memory of her childhood in Detroit flashing before her. This moment, this girl, was why she had endured the battles of the past year. Unity Air was no longer just an airline, it was a beacon of possibility, a promise that the world could change, one system at a time. The transformation of Horizon Airlines into Unity Air had been nothing short of miraculous. Though the journey was fraught with challenges, the first 3 months after the board's reluctant acceptance of Maya's terms were a crucible. Resistance came from every corner, executives who clung to the old ways, employees who feared change, and shareholders spooked by the leaked memo from Charles Donovan, which had exaggerated the costs of Maya's reforms. But Maya's team was relentless. Rachel Nguyen, her legal counsel, had worked tirelessly to implement the Accountability and Restoration Program, a 6-month curriculum that combined education on systemic racism with community service. The program wasn't just for employees. Like Jessica Hayes, who had slapped Maya on that infamous flight, it was for anyone who displayed bias, offering a path to redemption rather than automatic termination. Punishment creates fear, Maya had told her team. Transformation creates progress. To everyone's surprise, Jessica had enrolled in the program, completing it with a level of commitment that stunned even her harshest critics. She didn't return as a flight attendant, but took a role in facilitating the program, sharing her story as a cautionary tale. "I thought I wasn't racist," she told a group of new hires during an orientation session, her voice steady but tinged with shame. "I had black co-workers, friends even, but I never questioned the assumptions I made about passengers like Ms. Carter. That slap wasn't just a moment of anger, was the result of biases I didn't even know I had." The program's success was a cornerstone of Unity Air's rebirth. Applications from qualified candidates of color surged by 300%, allowing the airline to build a workforce that mirrored its diverse customer base. Customer satisfaction ratings climbed 25%, with complaints about discriminatory treatment dropping to near zero. Employee retention improved, reducing the costly turnover that had plagued Horizon. The financial results silenced skeptics who had predicted Maya's social justice agenda would bankrupt the company. Profits rose 17%, driven by a loyal customer base and a reputation for authenticity. Unity Air's new leadership team, handpicked by Maya, was a tapestry of diversity: Black, Latino, Asian, and women in key roles, including a new CEO, Maria Gonzalez, a former logistics executive who had risen through the ranks at a rival airline. Maria's appointment had been a deliberate signal. Unity Air wasn't just paying lip service to inclusion, it was living it. But the transformation wasn't without cost. Maya had faced personal and professional tolls that few outside her inner circle understood. The constant scrutiny, the media attacks orchestrated by Charles Donovan and his allies, the weight of being a black woman leading a high-stakes corporate overhaul, all took a toll. Late at night, in the quiet of her Los Angeles penthouse, Maya would sit with her journal, the same one she'd kept since her Stanford days, and write about the exhaustion. "It's not the fight that wears you down," she wrote one night, her pen moving furiously across the page. "It's the need to be perfect, to anticipate every attack, to prove you belong in rooms that were never built for you." Her sister, Tessa, a schoolteacher in Detroit, had been her lifeline, texting daily with encouragement or calling to share stories of her students, many of whom faced the same systemic barriers Maya had overcome. "You're doing this for them," Tessa said during one late-night call, her voice thick with pride. "For every kid who gets told they can't." One of the most unexpected allies in Maya's journey was Lena Washington, the whistleblower who had provided the files exposing Sky Vista's buried complaints. Lena had risked her career to come forward, and Maya hadn't forgotten. After the acquisition, Maya offered Lena a role as Unity Air's first director of diversity and inclusion, a position Lena embraced with the same quiet determination she'd shown in the cafe near Lax. "I've seen what happens when people stay silent," Lena told Maya during their first meeting in the new role. "I want to make sure no one else has to." Lena's work was instrumental in rolling out the Accountability and Restoration Program, and she became a bridge between the corporate office and the frontline employees, many of whom had stories of their own about bias and retaliation under the old regime. Lena's presence in meetings was a constant reminder of the stakes, not just for Maya, but for every employee who had been silenced. The broader impact of Unity Air's transformation began to ripple beyond the airline industry. Maya had always seen the acquisition as a starting point, a chance to create a blueprint for systemic change. To that end, she founded the Carter Institute for Corporate Justice, a non-profit dedicated to adapting Unity Air's model for other industries. The institute offered consulting, training, and resources to companies willing to confront their own biases, with a focus on measurable outcomes rather than performative gestures. Within months, major corporations from tech giants to retail chains were reaching out, eager to avoid the kind of public reckoning Horizon had faced. Maya handpicked a team to lead the institute, including Lena and a young black data scientist named Malik Johnson, whose algorithms helped track the effectiveness of diversity initiatives. "This isn't about checking boxes," Maya told the institute's first board meeting. It's about building systems where everyone has a fair shot. The media narrative around Maya had shifted dramatically over the year. The initial wave of attacks, led by Charles Donovan's leaked memo and opinion pieces, had painted her as an opportunistic activist using the slap to seize control of Horizon. But Maya's strategic silence, followed by her powerful speech at the Urban League dinner, had turned the tide. Amara Jackson, her communications head, had masterfully shaped the story, ensuring that key outlets highlighted Maya's vision for change over profit. By the 6-month mark, headlines celebrated Unity Air as the airline that listened, with Maya gracing the covers of Forbes and Time as a trailblazer. The hashtag Horizon Assault hashtag had evolved into hashtag Unity Air, rising, a symbol of hope for those who believed corporate America could do better. Yet, not everyone was on board. Charles Donovan, ousted from the board but still a wealthy shareholder, hadn't gone quietly. From his mansion in the Hamptons, he continued to lobby investors, claiming Maya's reforms were a financial disaster waiting to happen. His efforts culminated in a shareholder meeting 3 months after the acquisition, where he proposed scaling back the diversity initiatives to protect profitability. Maya had anticipated this. Diana Lopez, her chief investment officer, had spent weeks securing the support of major institutional investors, many of whom were drawn to Intellicorp's strong ESG, environmental, social, governance track record. At the meeting, Maya presented data showing Unity Air's early successes, improved customer metrics, reduced complaints, and a stock price that had rebounded 10% since the rebrand. Charles's motion was defeated 85-15, a humiliating loss that effectively silenced his influence. "He underestimated you," David Brooks said as they left the meeting. Maya's smile was wry. They always do. The personal cost of the past year weighed heavily on Maya. The public saw her as unflappable, a billionaire who could bend corporations to her will. But in private, she grappled with the isolation of her position. The higher she climbed, the fewer people understood her reality. Her mentor, Dr. Ruth Washington, a 75-year-old computer science pioneer, was one of the few who did. During a quiet dinner in San Francisco, Ruth had looked at Maya with knowing eyes. "You're carrying too much, child," she said, her southern accent warm but firm. "You can't fight every battle alone." Maya had sighed, her guard dropping. For a rare moment, "I know, Ruth, but when you're the one in the room, the one they're all watching, stepping back feels like surrender." Ruth reached across the table, squeezing her hand. "Your mother didn't raise you to surrender, but she also didn't raise you to break. You're building something bigger than yourself. Let others help carry it." Ruth's words echoed as Maya boarded the Unity Air flight to San Francisco. The cabin was a far cry from the tense, divided space of a year ago. The crew, a diverse mix of ages and backgrounds, moved with a confidence born of training and trust. Jasmine Roberts, the young flight attendant, served drinks with a professionalism that made Maya proud. When Jasmine brought Amara to meet her, Maya saw herself in the girl's eager eyes, a 12-year-old in Detroit, dreaming of a world where her mind could take her anywhere. "What does your app do?" Maya asked, leaning forward in her seat. Amara's face lit up. "It helps my mum track her shifts at the hospital. She's a nurse, and her schedule's always a mess." Maya's throat tightened, the parallel to her childhood striking deep. "That's incredible," she said. "I built something like that for my mum when I was your age." She was a seamstress. Amara's eyes widened. "Really? And you're a billionaire now. Maya laughed softly. It's not about the money. It's about what you do with what you've got. Keep coding, Amara. The world needs your ideas. Maya handed Amara her business card, writing her email on the back. When you're 16, reach out. We have an internship program at Intellicore, and I'd love to see what you're building by then. Amara clutched the card like a treasure, her smile radiant. As she returned to her seat, Jasmine lingered. Thank you, Miss Carter, she said quietly. Seeing you do this, it means everything to people like me. Maya nodded, her voice soft. It's not just about me, Jasmine. It's about making sure girls like Amara don't have to fight as hard as we did. Jasmine's eyes shone with understanding before she returned to her duties. As the flight descended into San Francisco, Maya reflected on the past year. The slap had been a violation, a moment that could have broken her spirit. Instead, it had ignited a fire. Unity. Air's transformation wasn't just about one airline. It was a template for what was possible when power was used to uplift rather than oppress. The Carter Institute was already working with a dozen companies, adapting the accountability and restoration program for retail, tech, and manufacturing. Lena Washington had become a sought-after speaker, sharing her story at industry conferences. Jessica Hayes, too, had found a new purpose, using her experience to guide others through the program she once doubted. The ripple effects were undeniable, but Maya knew the work was far from over. Systems of oppression didn't crumble in a year. They required relentless pressure, strategic vision, and a willingness to face resistance at every turn, back in loss. Angela Satessa had sent Maya a photo of her classroom, where her students had created a mural inspired by Unity Air's rebrand. They call you their hero, Tessa texted. Maya smiled, typing back, tell them they're mine. The photo reminded her of the stakes, not just corporate profits or stock prices, but the dreams of kids who deserved a world were there. Potential wasn't limited by their skin color. She thought of her mother, Angela, who had worked herself to the bone to give Maya a chance. Angela had lived to see Unity Air, but Maya felt her presence in every step of this journey as the plane touched down. Maya's phone buzzed with a message from Ruth Washington, saw Unity Air's quarterly report, soaring. How does it feel to prove change? Is good business? Maya's response was simple, like progress, but we're not done. She stepped off the plane into a terminal buzzing with activity. Unity Air's new branding everywhere, posters proclaiming fly equal, fly unity. A young employee at the gate, a Latino man named Carlos, greeted her with a nod. Welcome to San Francisco, Miss Carter. It's an honor, Maya smiled. The honor's mine, Carlos. Keep up the good work. Later that evening, Maya stood on the stage at a tech conference in San Francisco, delivering the keynote address. The room was packed with industry leaders, journalists, and activists, all eager to hear from the woman who had turned a viral scandal into a corporate renaissance. A year ago, she began, her voice steady. I was slapped on a flight because someone assumed I didn't belong. That moment wasn't just about MIT, it was about every person who's been told they don't belong, whether in a boardroom, a classroom, or a first-class cabin. Unity Air is proof that change is possible, but only if we confront the systems that perpetuate bias. The audience hung on her words, and when she finished, the applause was thunderous. In the crowd, Maya spotted Amara, who had come with her grandparents. The girl held up her phone, showing a new app she'd built, a simple game that taught kids about coding. Maya's heart swelled. This was the legacy she was building, not just for herself, but for every Amara out there. After the speech, Maya met with her team in a private suite. Rachel reported that the Carter Institute had secured funding from 3 major foundations, ensuring its work would continue. Diana shared that Unity Air's stock had hit an all-time high, with investors praising its innovative approach. David, ever the protector, noted that Charles Donovan had quietly sold his remaining shares, retreating from the fight. "He's done," David said. Maya nodded. "For now. But there'll always be another Donovan." Amara Jackson, monitoring the media, grinned. "The narrative's ours. Hashtag Unity Air Rising is trending globally." Maya allowed herself a rare smile. "Good, let's keep it that way." As the meeting ended, Maya stepped onto the balcony, the San Francisco skyline glittering below. The weight of the past year of the battles, the isolation, the moments of doubt settled over her, but so did a sense of purpose. She thought of Amara, of Lena, of Jessica, of every person whose life had been touched by this fight. The slap had been meant to put her in her place, but instead, it had given her a platform to redefine what place meant for those who had been excluded. Her phone buzzed with a final text from Tessa. "Mum's smiling down on you." Maya's eyes stung, but she smiled into the night. The work was far from over, but for the first time, she felt the weight wasn't hers alone to carry. It was shared by her team, by Lena, by Amara, by every person who believed in a world where equality wasn't a slogan but a reality. Unity Air was just the beginning.